A lot of men imagine love like this. First, it is all fireworks. Then, please let it be exactly that fireworks forever, just with less drama and more reliability. Sounds nice. Unfortunately, that is not life. Because the problem is not that the wild years are bad. Quite the opposite. They are often exactly the part where we feel alive, where everything feels easy, spontaneous, a little reckless, a little too loud, a little too fast. Exactly the kind of thing that later makes you say, back then, I was somehow happier. Sure, back then you also had the illusion that pizza, and good vibes were a life model. But at some point, life quite unfriendly notices that it does not want to keep you in that phase forever. And that is exactly where it gets interesting. Because then attraction is no longer enough. Then flirting is no longer enough. Then that I just want it to feel good is no longer enough either. At some point, life no longer asks for your ego, but for your ability to hold something real. And that is why the 5 stages matter. Because if you go through them, you do not just learn how women change. You also learn what each stage asks of you and how to keep a lot of that fire alive instead of losing it when life gets real. Now, let's start with the beginning. Phase 1 is where most men are still convinced they are in a romantic comedy, when in reality they are often just one bad text away from a psychological thriller. This is the stage of attraction, excitement, and that slightly chaotic energy where nobody knows exactly what is happening, but everybody pretends they do. And to be fair, that confusion is part of the fun. Early attraction is powerful because the brain is basically acting like a teenager with a credit card. Dopamine is up, curiosity is high, and everything feels bigger than it probably is. That is not a flaw in the design. That is the design. In the beginning, she is not just looking for a man. She is looking for a feeling of tension, safety, curiosity, and a little mystery. If you are too available, too obvious, or too desperate, the whole thing dies faster than a plant in a bachelor apartment. So in phase 1, the job is not to over-explain yourself like a man applying for emotional tax relief. Your job is to create a pull. She should feel something before she can fully label it. That is the point. Men always want to rush to certainty. Women in the early phase often want to first feel the experience. That is why confidence matters. Not fake alpha confidence. Real confidence, the kind where you do not need to announce your value like a limited time offer. And yes, this is where many men make the classic mistake of trying to be nice in the most exhausting way possible. Not kind, not calm, not grounded, just over-invested, over-available, and emotionally standing in front of her with a bouquet of pressure. Nothing kills attraction faster than a man who already behaves like a husband before she even knows if she likes him. But here's the part most men miss. Phase 1 is not just about attraction. It already contains the seed of everything that comes later. Because if the connection is real, this is also where the first test begins. Not the test of whether you can impress her, the test of whether you can stay interesting when you are not trying too hard. And that brings us to the promise hidden behind the whole thing. Because if you can move through the 5 stages without losing yourself, then you are not just learning how to get a woman interested. You are learning how to keep the fire alive when life stops being a game and starts being a shared reality. Phase 2 is where things stop being pure adrenaline and start becoming a pattern. This is where attraction either grows up or falls apart. She is no longer just reacting to your energy. She is watching whether it holds up when life stops being cute. And that is exactly why I want you thinking about phase 5 already, because that is the real prize. Not just getting the spark once, but learning how to carry it through everything that comes after. There is no shortcut to that. If you want the fire in the end, you have to understand the middle. Because the middle is where most men get impatient. And impatience is exactly what kills attraction before it has a chance to become anything real. In phase 2, a lot of men either do too much or too little. Too much, and they become the emotional equivalent of a push notification. Too little, and they disappear like a cheap Wi-Fi signal. What she needs here is consistency, not theater. Consistency, not because she wants a robot, but because the nervous system does not fall for chaos forever. At some point, steady feels safer than flashy. and safer is often what lets desire deepen instead of die out. She needs to feel that your presence does not depend on your mood. That is not boring. That is attractive in a way most guys never learn to value. Phase 3 is where the mask starts slipping for both people. Less fantasy, more truth. Less performance, more reality. And that is usually where the relationship gets serious, whether the couple is ready or not. This is the phase where she stops caring so much about how impressive you are and starts paying attention to who you are when you are not trying to win. Because performance is easy, presence is harder. And presence is rare, which is why it stands out. Most men can perform for 10 minutes. Very few can stay solid when they are no longer being evaluated. Presence is what remains when you stop trying to audition for the role of good man and just become one. And that is where trust starts to matter more than chemistry alone. Trust is not built by one big moment. It is built when she sees, again and again, that you do not collapse under pressure, do not get weird when challenged, and do not turn into a different man the second things get inconvenient. That is what separates a short-term attraction from something that can actually last. Phase 4 is where the relationship becomes real life. Now it is not just about chemistry between two people. It is about whether both of you can build something without killing the fire in the process. This is where the little things matter. Routines, responsibility, stress, timing, moods. This is also where a lot of relationships go flat because people think stability and desire are enemies. They are not. The trick is balance. Too much safety and desire suffocates. Too much chaos and it burns out. You need both sides of the scale in motion. That is the real art. Not choosing comfort over tension or tension over comfort, but learning how to keep both alive without turning the relationship into either a circus or a retirement home. Then comes phase 5. This is not just about being wanted once. It is about being chosen again and again through real life. Through stress, boredom, disappointment, change, and still keeping the fire alive. Not teenage chaos, not endless chasing, a deeper kind of desire. The kind that comes from trust, familiarity, and still wanting the person in front of you. That is why all the 5 stages matter. If you understand them, you do not just learn how women change. You learn when to create tension, when to stay grounded, and when to hold the whole thing together without making it heavy. Because in the end, the goal is not just to make her feel something for a night. The goal is to become the kind of man she can feel something with, even when life is not exciting. And that is where most men fall off. Not because they cannot attract, but because they never learned how to sustain.